All right, imagine stepping into this amazing world,
Yeah.
Dragons, dungeons, huge quests.
Mm,
It's all powered by imagination.
it really is. And Dungeons and Dragons, especially with these updated 2024 rules, it's all about telling that story together.
Totally. It's cooperative.
Right.
And whether you're maybe thinking about picking up dice for the first time or you're a veteran just wanting to see what's new.
Getting a handle on these core rules is, well, it's essential. It's your key to the whole adventure.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing right now. This is our deep dive into Chapter 1 of the updated 2024 D&D rulebook. It's called Playing the Game.
Yep. This is the foundation, all the absolute must-know stuff to get you going or just, refresh you on how things work now.
We've gone through it, pulled out the really crucial bits, the main ideas.
Our mission here is basically to give you a clear, kind of easy-to-digest rundown of how the game's engine actually runs.
Think of it like your quick start guide to the fundamentals. And hey, if you're here with us on Dragons and Disasters, you know we love getting into the details.
And this chapter 1, it's where so much of that D&D magic starts.
Okay, so first things first. Who are the people around the table? Chapter 1 kicks off defining the main roles.
Right, you've got basically two hats. There are the players, usually a few people, and then there's the dungeon master, the DM. Usually just one person doing that job.
So if you're a player, you're kind of the main character of your story within this bigger world. You make one character.
And Chapter 2 gets into all the cool details of how you make that character.
Right, but basically that character is you in the game, your avatar.
And you don't adventure alone, usually. You team up with the other players, that group. That's your venture party.
Everyone brings something different, right? Different skills, different ability.
Exactly. Each character's unique.
The DM, they set the scene, describe the world, throw challenges at you.
But it's you, the player, who decides what your character actually does, what they say, how they react.
You can try pretty much anything you can think of, and the rules sort of help figure out if it works.
Yeah, the DM controls the world, the challenges, but you navigate your character through it all.
Now, the Dungeon Master role, that's different. Very creative, but different responsibilities.
Oh yeah, the DM is the final word on the rules. They're the referee, the storyteller, the world builder, all rolled into one.
They build the adventures, right?
Right.
Like they prepare the scenarios, the monsters, the traps. The book mentions the Dungeon Master's Guide for more on that.
Mm-hmm. And they guide the story live at the table. They describe what you see, what you hear, who you meet.
And they tell you the results of your actions. You swing your sword, roll the dice, and the DM narrates whether you hit or miss and what happens next.
Which is why knowing the rules glossary, those specific term definitions, is super important for a DM. Keeps things consistent.
Yeah.
And they can adjust rules, too, to keep things fun and flowing.
Okay, so we know who's who. How does the game actually flow? What's the rhythm?
Well, the book talks about 3 main ways you play. They call them the pillars: social interaction, exploration, and combat.
So talking to people, checking out places, and fighting monsters.
Basically, yeah. And your whole adventure is kind of moving between those things, but the core pattern, moment to moment, is super simple.
Okay, what is it?
1, the DM describes the situation, what's going on, where you are.
2, the players say what their characters do. I try to climb the wall.
Huh.
I ask the guard a question.
Right. And 3, the DM describes the outcome. Okay, you start climbing, or the guard scoffs at you, and then it just repeats.
Describe, act, result. Got it.
Now, here's a really, really important rule to get early on. Exceptions supersede general rules. Meaning, if a specific rule from, say, your class or a spell or a magic item contradicts a general rule, the specific rule wins. Always.
Oh, okay. Like the example they give. Normally, melee attacks use strength. But if your Warlock pack says you use charisma.
You use charisma. The specific feature overrides the general attack rule. It stops a lot of confusion.
Makes sense. And you mentioned the rules glossary again. Sounds like keeping that handy is a good idea.
Definitely. Lots of terms have precise meanings in the game.
All right, let's talk about the stars of the show for many people. The dice. Those little random number generators.
Yeah, the dice, they bring the uncertainty, the excitement. You roll them when your character tries something risky, something where success isn't guaranteed.
And the book explains the notation, like XDY plus Z.
Right. X is how many dice, Y is the type of die, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, and Z is any flat number you add or subtract at the end.
So 3d6 plus 5 means roll 3 6-sided dice, add them up, then add 5.
Exactly. And then there's percentile dice, the D100, usually 2 10-sided dice.
1 for 10s, 1 for 1. So a 70 and a 3 is 73.
Yep. And 0, 0 on the 10's die and 0 on the 1's die is 100. Or sometimes people just use a D10 marked 0009 and a standard D10.
And they mentioned simulating a D3. Roll a D6, divide by 2, round up.
Handy trick if you ever need it, yeah. So what do we use dice for? D20 tests, damage rolls, and random tables.
But the king is the D20, right? The 20-sided die.
Absolutely. It's central to the main mechanic, the D20 test.
But before we get to the test itself, we need the numbers behind the test. The abilities.
Right. Your character's core stats, there are 6 of them.
Strength.
Physical power.
Dexterity.
Agility, reflexes.
Constitution.
Health, toughness.
Intelligence.
Reasoning, memory.
Wisdom.
Perception, insight.
And charisma.
Confidence, presence, social skill.
Each one has a score, usually 1 to 20 for adventurers, maybe up to 30 for like gods or monsters. 10 or 11 is average human.
But the number you use most often isn't the score itself, it's the ability modifier.
The plus or minus number derived from the score.
Exactly. The book's got the table, but basically 10, 11 is plus 0. Go up 2 points, the modifier goes up by 1, so 12, 13 is plus 1, 14, 15 is plus 2, up to 20 being plus 5.
And down works the same way. 8, 9 is -1.
Yep, down to a score of 1 being -5. Those modifiers are what you'll add to most of your D20 rolls.
Okay, now let's hit the core mechanic, the D20 test. This is huge.
It is. Anytime your character tries something uncertain, this is probably what you're doing. It covers 3 big categories: ability checks, saving throws, and attack rolls.
And the process is always the same.
Always the same 3 steps. Step 1.
Roll that D20.
Step 2.
Add your modifiers. That's your ability modifier, maybe your proficiency bonus.
And any other situational bonuses or penalties the DM might give you.
And step 3.
Compare the total to a target number.
Which could be a difficulty class, DC, if you're like climbing a cliff or persuading a guard.
Or it could be an armor class, AC, if you're trying to hit someone in combat.
And if your total equals or beats the target number.
Success. You did it.
If it's lower.
Failure. You stumble, the guard isn't convinced, your attack misses.
The book gives some handy benchmarks for DCs, right? Like DC 10 is easy, 15 is medium, 20 is hard.
Yeah, those give you a good feel for how tough different tasks are meant to be. DC 5, very easy, up to DC 30, nearly impossible.
Now, sometimes things aren't neutral. Sometimes you've got help, or things are making it harder.
Exactly. That's where advantage and disadvantage come in. Simple concept, big impact.
If you have advantage.
You roll 2 D20s for the test, and you use the higher roll. Gives you much better odds.
And disadvantage, yeah.
Same thing, roll 2 D20s, but this time you have to use the lower roll. Makes success much harder.
Okay. Critical point here. They don't stack, right?
Correct. If you have 3 things giving you advantage, you still only roll 2 D20s and take the higher. You don't get to roll 4 dice. Same for disadvantage.
And what if you have both? Like 1 reason for advantage, 1 for disadvantage.
They cancel out completely. Doesn't matter how many sources of each you have. If you have any advantage and any disadvantage on the same roll, you just roll 1 D20 like normal. No advantage, no disadvantage.
Wow, okay. That simplifies things a lot. Keeps you from calculating 5 advantages versus 2 disadvantages.
Exactly. It's elegant.
Another key number that gets added sometimes is the proficiency bonus.
Right. This represents your character's training. You're proficient in certain things based on your class, background, maybe race. Could be weapons, armor, skills, saving throws, tools.
And if you're making a D20 test using something you're proficient with,
you get to add your proficiency bonus to the roll. This bonus starts at +2 at level 1 and goes up as you level up. The book has a table showing the progression.
Important note, you add this bonus to the result after rolling the D20 and adding your ability modifier, right?
Yeah.
It's not extra dice.
Correct. It's just another number added to the total you compare against the DC or AC.
And then there's something called heroic inspiration. Sounds cool.
It is. It's a reward the DM can hand out, usually for great role-playing, clever ideas, or just doing something awesome and heroic.
What does it let you do?
If you have heroic inspiration, you can choose to re-roll 1 die on any D20 test you just made. Attack roll, saving throw, ability check your choice.
Oh, like a mulligan.
Sort of, but you have to use the new roll, even if it's worse than the first one. And it doesn't interact with advantage, disadvantage in terms of rolling extra dice. You just re-roll one of the D20s you already rolled.
Can you hoard them?
Nope. You can only have 1 instance of heroic inspiration at a time. And interestingly, you can even give your inspiration to another player if you think they deserve it more or could use it better.
Nice. Okay, so we know the D20 test basics. Let's break down the 3 types. Ability checks first.
Right. These measure your character's skill or raw talent when trying a specific task that isn't an attack or a save. Climbing, sneaking, remembering lore, charming someone.
And the DM decides which ability score applies, and often links it to a skill.
Exactly. Skills are specific applications of abilities, like athletics is usually strength, stealth is usually dexterity, arcana is intelligence, insight is wisdom, persuasion is charisma. The book lists them all.
And if you're proficient in that skill,
you add your proficiency bonus to the ability check. So a dexterity stealth check, if you're proficient in stealth, gets your dex modifier plus your proficiency bonus.
Can skills ever use different abilities?
Yeah, the DM can call for that. The book gives the example of maybe making an intimidation check using strength instead of charisma if you're, like, crushing something in your hand to scare someone. The situation dictates.
Cool. Okay, next type. Saving throws.
These are reactive. They represent your attempt to resist or avoid something bad happening to you. A spell, a trap, a poison, a dragon's breath.
So you roll a d20.
Add the modifier for the ability score that affect targets like dexterity to dodge an explosion, constitution to resist poison, wisdom to see through an illusion.
And add your proficiency bonus if your class makes you proficient in that specific type of saving throw.
Right. Not everyone is proficient in every save. You compare your total to the save DC set by the spell, trap, or whatever caused it.
Gotcha. And the third type, attack rolls. Hitting things.
The classic. This determines if your swing, shot, or magical blast connects with the target.
Roll a d20.
Add your relevant ability modifier, usually strength for melee weapons, dexterity for ranged weapons, or those with the finesse property.
Add your proficiency bonus if you're proficient with the specific weapon or type of attack you're making.
Plus, any other bonuses or penalties? Compare the total to the target's armor class AC.
Meet or beat the AC you hit. Lower than AC, you miss.
But there are two critical exceptions based on the D20 roll itself.
Ah yes, the natural 20 and natural 1.
If the D20 die shows a 20, it's an automatic hit, regardless of AC or modifiers. And it's a critical hit, usually means you roll extra damage dice. We'll get to that.
And if the d20 die shows a 1?
Automatic miss. Doesn't matter if you have a plus 20 bonus, a natural 1 always fails on an attack roll.
Ouch. The book also touches on melee versus ranged attacks, reach, fighting while mounted, and attacking unseen enemies.
Right. Being unseen is a big advantage. If they can't see you, you get advantage on your attack rolls against them.
And if you can't see your target,
you have disadvantage on your attack rolls against them. And if an enemy can't see you, attacks against you have disadvantage. Makes sense.
And cover. That affects AC too, right?
Big time. If there's something between you and the attacker, it might grant cover. Half cover, like leaning around a tree, gives plus 2 AC.
3/4 cover, like behind a narrow slit.
That's a hefty plus 5 AC bonus.
Not total cover.
Like being behind a solid wall. You can't be targeted directly at all by most attacks or spells. Super useful.
Okay, so that covers how you make checks, saves, and attacks. But when it's your turn, what can you actually do? What are your options?
Generally, on your turn, especially in combat, you can take one main action.
And the book lists the standard ones.
Yeah, it gives a good rundown. You can use your action to attack, obviously. Or dash, which lets you move your speed again.
Disengage.
Lets you move away from an enemy without provoking an opportunity attack from them.
Dodge.
Focus on defense. Until your next turn, attacks against you have disadvantage if you can see the attacker. Give an ally advantage on their next ability check or attack roll against a creature near you.
Hide.
Make a dexterity stealth check to try and become unseen.
Influence.
Try to charm, intimidate, or persuade someone using a charisma check.
Cast a spell.
If the spell has a casting time of 1 action, this is how you do it.
Ready.
Hold your action, you set a trigger, like if the goblin steps through the door, and then you can use your reaction to perform a specific action when that trigger occurs.
Search or study.
Use perception or investigation, or maybe an intelligence skill like history or arcana to find something or recall information.
And utilize.
Interact with an object that requires more than just a free hand, like pulling a complex lever or using certain tools.
That's a lot of options for just one action.
It is. Gives you tactical choices, and then there are bonus actions.
Right. Some spells or class features give you these?
Exactly. You only get one bonus action per turn, even if multiple things could grant one. And you can only take it if something specifically says you can use a bonus action to do it.
And reactions. Those happen off turn.
Yeah, they're instant responses to a trigger. The classic is the opportunity attack. If an enemy moves out of your reach, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack against them.
But you only get one reaction per round.
That's right. Use it for an opportunity attack, and you can't use it again until the start of your next turn, even if another trigger happens, like needing to cast the shield spell.
So you choose your action, bonus action if available, maybe use your reaction. But the book also stresses thinking about why your character does these things, right?
Absolutely. The mechanics are the tools, but your character's personality, goals, fears, that should guide how you use those tools.
Makes the game much richer than just crunching numbers, which leads nicely into social interaction. Not everything is fighting.
Definitely not. A huge chunk of D&D is talking to non-player characters, negotiating, gathering information, maybe bluffing your way past guards.
And this involves actual role-playing, like talking in character.
It can, yeah. The book gives a great example in a tavern scene. Some players speak as their characters, that's active role-playing.
And others might describe what their character does or feels.
Right. Descriptive role-playing, like Gareth looks uncomfortable and shifts his weight. Both are totally valid ways to play.
And sometimes the DM will call for an ability check during these interactions.
For sure. In the example, one character, Jared, wants to see if the person they're talking to, Ismark, is trustworthy. The DM asks for a wisdom insight check.
Insight is the skill for reading people.
Exactly. Jared rolls, adds his wisdom modifier and proficiency bonus because he's proficient in insight, gets a 15. The DM had set the DC at 15.
So success.
Yep. The DM tells Jared that his character senses Ismark is holding something back. The check helped guide the role-playing.
Cool. Okay, Pillar 2, exploration. Moving through the world of finding stuff.
Into the unknown. Yeah, this covers everything from navigating a forest to searching a dusty tomb. Your gear ropes, torches, tools is often key here.
And vision is a big deal in exploration, light and darkness.
Crucial. Bright light is normal visibility. Dim light creates slightly obscured areas. You have disadvantage on wisdom, perception checks that rely on sight there.
And darkness
Creates heavily obscured areas. You effectively suffer the blinded condition when trying to see in darkness. It's like the targets have total cover.
Unless you have special senses, like dark vision.
Exactly. Dark vision lets you see in dim light as if it were bright, and in darkness as if it were dim light, usually out to a certain range. There are other senses too, like blind sight or true sight.
Hiding uses stealth, right? Dexterity stealth check.
Usually, yeah. Often contested by the passive or active wisdom perception of anyone who might spot you.
And interacting with objects, like doors, chests.
Simple things like opening an unlocked door are usually free, part of your movement. More complex things, like picking a lock or disabling a trap, will likely take your action and require an ability check, maybe using thieves' tools. You get one free object interaction on your turn, usually.
Finding hidden things is classic exploration. Secret doors, traps.
Yep. Players declare they're searching, and the DM might call for a wisdom perception check to spot something passively noticeable, or maybe intelligence investigation check to deduce a hiding spot based on clues in the environment.
The book has an example of finding coins and a scroll this way.
Yeah, it shows how those checks lead to discovery.
Exploration also covers things like carrying capacity, maybe breaking objects, environmental hazards like falling.
Starving or suffocating. Yeah, all the dangers beyond monsters.
And travel, getting between locations.
Right. You usually choose a travel pace, fast, normal, or slow. This affects how far you go per hour or day, and also your awareness.
Fast pace covers more ground, but gives you disadvantage on perception checks.
Correct. Slow pace is stealthier, gives advantage on survival checks for foraging or tracking, but you cover less distance. Normal is the balance. The book provides a table with speeds like normal pace is about 3 miles per hour, 24 miles per day, typically.
And you need to think about marching order, maybe using mounts or vehicles.
All part of planning your journey.
Okay, Pillar 3, combat. When talking and exploring, fail, or succeed too well.
Right. Combat is structured, turn-based, uses initiative rolls to determine who goes when, keeps the chaos orderly.
And it ends when one side is down, runs away, or gives up.
Pretty much. Key elements are movement and position. Your speed determines how far you can move.
Different types of movement too, right? Walking, climbing, swimming.
Yep. And some terrain is difficult terrain, like rubble or thick mud, which costs double movement to move through.
Creature size matters too. How much space you take up.
Yeah, tiny, small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan. Small and medium creatures usually control a 5-foot square space on a grid. Larger creatures take up more squares.
You can break up your movement. Move, attack, move more.
Absolutely. As long as you don't exceed your total speed for the turn, And dropping prone costs no movement, but getting up costs half your speed.
And making an attack in combat uses that same D20 test versus AC we talked about earlier.
Exactly the same process. Roll D20, add modifiers, compare to AC.
If you hit, you deal damage. Roll some dice, add modifiers.
Usually, yeah. Your weapon or spell tells you what dice to roll, like 1d8 for a longsword, and what modifier to add. Usually strength for the longsword.
And there are different damage types. Fire, cold, acid, psychic.
Lots of them. And this matters because of resistance and vulnerability.
Resistance means you take half damage from that type.
Correct. Vulnerability means you take double damage. Ouch!
And again, these don't stack, right? Multiple resistances to fire still only halves it once.
Absolutely. And the order you apply things matters for calculating final damage, the book says. Adjustments first, like negative damage taken, then add bonuses, then apply penalties, then apply resistance or vulnerability last.
That order prevents weird math issues.
Exactly. Keeps it consistent.
Immunity is simpler. Just take no damage or ignore the condition.
Yep. Total negation.
How do you get hit points back? Healing?
Healing. Spells like Cure Wounds, Potions of Healing, or taking rests. A short rest lets you spend hit dice to heal. A long rest usually restores all lost HP, but you can never go above your maximum HP.
What happens if damage takes you to exactly 0 HP?
You fall unconscious. Unless the hit was massive.
Right, the instant death roll.
Yeah.
If the damage left over after hitting 0 equals or exceeds your max HP...
Then yeah, you die instantly.
Yeah.
But usually you just drop to 0 and fall unconscious, and then you start making death saving throws.
Okay, explain those. Start of your turn while at 0 HP.
Roll a d20. No modifiers added. 10 or higher is 1 success. 9 or lower is 1 failure.
You need 3 successes before 3 failures.
Right. 3 successes means you stabilize. You're still unconscious at 0 HP, but you stop dying. 3 failures means, well, your character dies.
Any special rolls?
A natural 20 on the death save is amazing. You instantly regain 1 HP and become conscious again.
And a natural 1.
That's critically bad. It counts as 2 failures. Really ups the stakes.
Can allies help?
Yes. Someone next to you can use their action to make a DC 10 Wisdom Medicine check. If they succeed, you stabilize immediately.
What about temporary hit points? Are they, like, healing?
No, not quite. They're like a buffer. You get a certain number, and they absorb damage first before your actual HP takes a hit.
And they don't stack?
Yeah.
If you get more, you just take the new amount if it's higher.
Correct. You choose the better batch, you don't add them. And when they're gone, they're gone. They don't restore lost HP.
Lastly, conditions.
Yeah.
Like being blinded, charmed, poisoned.
Yeah, these are special states that impose penalties or restrictions on a creature. The book lists quite a few. Grappled, incapacitated, paralyzed, restrained, stunned.
They usually have a duration, and most don't stack. Like, you're either poisoned or you're not.
Generally, yes. Exhaustion is the main exception. It has multiple levels with worsening effects.
Phew. Okay, to tie it all together, the chapter ends with a combat example, right?
It does, a really useful one. Sets the scene. Party ambushed by skeletons below Castle Ravenloft. Classic.
And it walks through a round turn by turn.
Exactly. Shows initiative determining the order. Then you see Russell attack and miss. Maeve attacks and hits. Oro gets a critical hit. Philip misses.
We see spellcasting too. Mirabella uses the shield spell.
Yep, as a reaction when she gets attacked.
Yeah.
Shows how reactions fit in.
And special abilities, like Rogue Sneak Attack.
Right. Oro adds sneak attack damage to his crit, and Amy the Rogue uses cunning action to disengage as a bonus action.
And it even shows vulnerability in action.
Yeah, Amy hits a shambling mound with fire, and because it's vulnerable, the damage gets doubled. It really illustrates how all these rules, attacks, damage, actions, special features play out in sequence.
Wow. Okay, so that's a whirlwind tour of Chapter 1. We hit the player and DM roles.
The core loop. Describe, act, result. The dice, the notation.
Abilities, scores, modifiers, the absolute core.
Yeah.
The D20 test for checks, saves, and attacks.
Advantage, disadvantage, how they work, how they cancel, proficiency bonus, heroic inspiration.
The different actions you can take, how social interaction works with role-playing and checks.
Exploration, vision, light, finding things, travel.
And combat basics. Movement, position, damage types, resistance, vulnerability, healing, going to 0 HP, death saves, conditions.
It's a lot, but understanding this stuff from Chapter 1 really is your key to playing the game confidently. It's the shared language, the framework for all the amazing stories you'll tell.
So now that you have a handle on how to do things, make that check, roll that attack. Maybe the thing to chew on is why? How does knowing these rules help you make choices that really reflect your character, their personality, their goals, maybe even their flaws? How does knowing the mechanics help you bring that character to life?
That's a great thought. It's not just about winning or being optimal. It's about using the rules to express who your character is in the world.
Exactly. Well, this has been our deep dive into Playing the Game, Chapter 1 of the updated 2024 D&D rules. It's the foundation, but man, there's so much more cool stuff built on top of it in the rest of the rulebook.
You've been hanging out with us on Dragons and Disasters.
Hey, if you found this breakdown helpful or maybe just enjoyed nerding out about the core rules with us, do us a solid and hit that thumbs up button below. It really helps us out.
Yeah, it does. And make sure you subscribe to Dragons and Disasters for more deep dives, adventures, all sorts of tabletop stuff.
Don't forget to ring that notification bell too so you catch our next video right when it drops.
Until next time, happy adventuring.
May your D20s always roll high.